Hi, everybody. Welcome to Your Move, where we help you make better decisions and live with fewer regrets. I'm Andy Stanley, and I'll be your guide. And on this episode, we're talking about an invisible, insidious enemy that, if ignored, has the potential to wreak havoc with 100% of your relationships. It'll make it difficult for people to get to know you, and worse, it will make it practically impossible for people to love you. Because if you can't be fully known, you can't be unconditionally loved. So this is a big deal. Today, we're talking about guilt. Guilt is that emotion you feel when you're convinced that you've done something wrong. And let me define what I mean by wrong. By wrong, I mean you have taken something from someone else, and now there's an imbalance in the relationship. You owe them. To which you're thinking, wait, I'm not a thief. I haven't taken anything from anybody. And that's the disconnect. It's precisely why guilt gets lodged in our hearts, and we carry it from relationship to relationship. So follow me for just a moment. Every time you offend or deceive or lie or take advantage of or use or disrespect or mistreat someone, you take something from them. In fact, the best way to understand this is to think about the last time somebody mistreated you. Isn't it true that you feel like they owe you? In fact, you may have even said they owe you an apology, but they probably owe you more than an apology, right? They owe you your reputation back. They may owe you a job back, your marriage back. But enough about them and back to you. As I said, every time you offend, deceive, lie to, take advantage of, use, or disrespect or mistreat someone, you take something from them, which means you owe them. There's a debt. And until you pay it, or attempt to pay it, or admit you owe it, that debt lurks in your heart in the form of guilt. Guilt says this. Guilt says, I owe you. And truth be told, you may owe several people. And I know it wasn't all your fault, and perhaps they deserved what you did or what you took, but it doesn't matter. You took it. Whether it was their time, their self-respect, their financial security, their reputation. Maybe you took their husband, their wife, a job, your child's childhood. You took it. So you owe. And to rid yourself of the guilt that continues to haunt you, you have to own up and you have to pay, even if the only thing you can offer are your words. Again, reverse roles, and this becomes a bit more compelling. Think for a moment about the person who has hurt you the most, took from you what can't be returned, maybe a season of your life. Imagine for a moment that this same person shows up and owns up to what they did. Imagine they show up and take full responsibility. It wouldn't change the past, but it might change something in you, right? And why? Well, because you know they owe you. And just knowing that they know, that they understand the magnitude of what they stole from you, well, even those words would count as a partial payback for what they took from you, right? So whether you're lugging around the guilt of abandoning your family, lying to a girlfriend, or maybe trashing someone's reputation, or maybe literally stealing from someone, you have a debt to pay. You're guilty. And your guilt, whether anybody knows what you did or not, your guilt is affecting you. It's infecting your relationships. So what do? Well, the antidote for guilt is, and you're going to hate me for this, the antidote for guilt is confession. And not confession to God or to a priest. Maybe you've tried that. Confession to the person that you owe. Here's how Jesus talked about it. He said this. He said, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and you remember that your brother or your sister has something against you, you leave your gift right there in front of the altar. And then he says this, first go and be reconciled to them, to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Now, this is remarkable, but then again, Jesus is remarkable. And here's what he's saying. He's saying we cannot be right or in a right standing with God if we're unwilling to resolve our differences with the people that we've hurt, the people we've stolen from. And why? Because he knows, God knows, what we all know. The only way to unload our guilt is to acknowledge our guilt to the people that we've hurt. And why would Jesus care about such a thing? Because he cares about you. And again, he knows that guilt is an invisible, insidious enemy that, if ignored, has the potential to wreak havoc with 100% of your relationships. As I said up front, it will make it very difficult for people to get to know you, and you will become practically impossible to love. And God loves you. He loves you too much to leave you with your guilt. So of course, he invites you to unload it by confessing to the person or the people that you've hurt the most, the person or the people that you've stolen from. So here's the question. Who do you owe? Probably doesn't take long for you to answer that question, does it? Doesn't take long for any of us to answer that question. You know. And chances are they do as well. And yes, confession can be costly, and confession can be risky. But you know what? Lugging your guilt around has been costly as well, hasn't it? And it will continue to be. So here's something I've observed over the years. Maybe this will help. The consequences of concealment, of carrying our guilt, are far more devastating than the consequences of confession. So again, who do you owe? And are you willing to do what you can do to settle that debt? Even if it's as simple as taking full responsibility for what you did. And if you do, you'll be glad you did. And somebody else will be glad you did as well. And now, it's your move.